I grew up playing the basketball with the boys, so like it's always been physical and feisty, and like that's what it is, and you got to find a way to hold your own.
The WNBA has been thrown into turmoil after a stunning and completely unexpected development. Caitlin Clark, one of the most talked about young stars in the league, has officially aligned herself with Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull in a powerful stand that caught everyone off guard. This isn't just another headline-grabbing moment. It has sent shockwaves throughout the entire league, igniting heated debates, controversy, and serious concerns about the future direction of women's basketball. What drove these three players to come together? And why does this situation have the league on edge? For months, fans have packed arenas and tuned in from all corners of the country, watching these athletes push themselves beyond their limits. They played through pain, battled injuries, and sacrificed comfort out of pure love for the game. They became symbols of determination, resilience, and hope. These women weren't just athletes. In many ways, they carried the league on their backs. But beyond the highlight plays and roaring crowds, a troubling reality was quietly taking shape. A pattern of neglect, ignored injuries, and a league that repeatedly chose to look away. Now that reality can no longer be hidden. The announcement that followed wasn't polished or carefully scripted. It was raw, emotional, and impossible to forget. These players didn't politely request explanations. They exposed a system that treated its biggest stars as disposable. This moment has grown beyond basketball. It has become a question of dignity, respect, and whether the WNBA can survive the flames these women have ignited. At the center stands Caitlin Clark, the rookie who transformed every game into a headline. Her deep-range shooting, court vision, and calm under pressure weren't just skill. They were history unfolding in real time. Fans followed her like a phenomenon, knowing they were witnessing something rare. Alongside her is Sophie Cunningham, the intense veteran known for her toughness, passion, and relentless edge. Fans celebrated her scoring, but even more, they admired her fire and fearless spirit. And then there's Lexie Hull, the relentless competitor. Not always in the spotlight, but always doing the dirty work. Diving for loose balls, absorbing contact, and never backing down. To her teammates, she represented proof that heart can matter as much as hype. Together, they have demanded the respect they earned. The question now is simple but unsettling. Will the WNBA finally listen to its stars? Or will it risk losing the very pulse of the game? More importantly, are we witnessing the first spark of a full-scale revolution? This story is only beginning. When silence turns into betrayal, Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull stood for something larger than points, rebounds, or wins. They became symbols. Symbols of a future where women's basketball demands respect rather than begs for it, and where young girls see courage reflected on the court. They gave everything to the game, their energy, their bodies, their sacrifices. But the league that was meant to protect them fell short. Where care should have existed, there was neglect. Where answers were needed, there was silence. And in that silence, trust was shattered. The storm didn't begin with a buzzer beater or a highlight dunk. It began with pain and unanswered moments. The first shot came when Caitlin Clark went down. 1 second, the rookie sensation was electrifying the crowd. The next, she lay on the floor clutching her leg as the arena froze. Fans held their breath, hoping it wasn't serious. But the truth spread quickly. The injury was severe. Across the country, arenas grew quiet. The league's brightest star, the player driving record attendance and headlines, had been dimmed. And one question echoed loudly: how did this happen without stronger protection? Then came Lexie Hull's terrifying moment. A brutal blow to the eye left her staggering, blood visible as stunned fans watched in horror. What followed was even more disturbing. She was sent back onto the court without proper medical scans or safety evaluations. Social media erupted. Doctors, fans, and even opposing players demanded explanations. How could a professional league allow such carelessness? Once again, there was no response. But nothing cut deeper than Sophie Cunningham's collapse. Part 2 rewritten, same length, new wording, grammar fixed. Her knee gave out in a way that made even experienced athletes look away. The reaction was instant. Whispers spread through the arena. Devastating. Career-ending. Possibly irreversible. Sophie Cunningham, the fiery veteran who had devoted years of her life to the league, was suddenly facing the terrifying reality that her playing days might be over. Yet once again, there was no clear response. No statement. No visible plan. No urgency from the league. Just an empty silence where leadership and accountability should have been. These incidents were not random mishaps. They were warnings. Clear signs that the league was failing to protect its most valuable resource, its players. Now the question hangs heavily in the air. Will the WNBA finally wake up and take responsibility for the safety of its stars? Or will silence continue to damage the very women who built its future? This wasn't the silence of healing or reflection. It was something far colder. 3 players, 3 severe injuries, 1 disturbing pattern connecting them all. Silence. No justice. No accountability. Just a league choosing not to speak. Take a moment to reflect. If you believe these athletes deserve real answers, if you believe their sacrifices should be met with action instead of empty words, speak up. Share your thoughts. Because this story goes far beyond sports. It's about respect. For fans, what came next felt like a deep betrayal. They had invested their money, passion, and loyalty into a league that promised progress, safety, and growth. They filled seats, bought jerseys, and believed in the vision. But when it mattered most, when their heroes lay injured on the court, they were met with nothing but silence. These women weren't just names on a stat sheet. They were the reason the WNBA mattered to so many people. They filled arenas that once sat empty and brought new eyes to the game. And yet, when their bodies finally broke under the weight of that sacrifice, trust was broken in return. The silence became heavier than any medical diagnosis. There were no transparent updates, no official explanations, no sense of urgency. For loyal fans who had stood by the league through every high and low, this absence wasn't just disappointing. It was infuriating, because silence always sends a message. And the message to Caitlin Clark, Lexie Hull, and Sophie Cunningham was painfully clear. They weren't being treated as stars worth protecting. They were being treated as replaceable pieces in a system that valued results over people. That betrayal cut deeper than torn ligaments, damaged eyes, or bruised bodies. These players had given everything to elevate the league. They made history, built momentum, and inspired the next generation. But when they needed protection the most, the league turned away. Fans who once cheered in celebration now demanded accountability, flooding timelines with anger and disbelief. So now the question remains: can the WNBA rebuild the trust it shattered? Or has the damage gone too far? Because behind the polished highlights and smiling press conferences, something dangerous had been brewing. Inside locker rooms across the league, quiet conversations turned into open frustration. Players compared injuries, shared stories of ignored protocols, brushed off concerns, and careers risked without proper care. What the outside world saw as silence wasn't accidental. It was a pattern, and patterns like this don't fade on their own. For Sophie Cunningham, the silence felt deeply personal. Years of sacrifice met with indifference. For Lexie Hull, it was the terrifying realization that negligence could have permanently damaged her future. And for Caitlin Clark, the league's brightest new star, it was the harsh truth that her historic rookie season would forever be shadowed by pain. Individually, they were hurt. Together, they became powerful. Betrayal pushed them beyond patience and past fear. If the league refused to speak, then they would. Loudly, publicly, and in a way no one could ignore. When their statement finally dropped, it wasn't softened by public relations language or filtered through safe channels. It was raw, emotional, unapologetic. 3 voices speaking as one: Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull. They stepped forward and exposed a truth that shook the WNBA to its core. The message was simple: silence ends now. In just a few powerful paragraphs, they stripped away the league's image, revealing failures in medical accountability and a culture that treated players as expendable rather than human. They called the silence what it truly was: betrayal. The reaction was immediate. Social media exploded. Hashtags like Justice for Caitlin, Stand with Sophie, and Protect Lexie trended across platforms. Sports networks halted regular programming for heated debates. Analysts spoke bluntly. Former legends voiced their support. Rival players stood together in solidarity. The league wasn't being criticized from the outside. It was being challenged by the very women who brought it relevance. So now the final question lingers. Is this the moment that finally forces real change in the WNBA? Or is it only the opening chapter of a much larger fight? One thing is certain. When outrage reaches this level, it can no longer be ignored. The battle for dignity, safety, and basic respect had officially begun. This was no longer just another breaking headline. This was the kind of moment that had the power to shift control away from the league and back into the hands of the players it relied on. And the shockwaves were only getting started. The moment the joint statement from Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, and Caitlin Clark went public, it spread at lightning speed. Social media erupted. Hashtags surged across every major platform. Justice for the WNBA, stand with Caitlin, protect our players shot straight to the top of trending lists on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Clips replayed endlessly. Sophie's knee buckling. Lexie's brutal eye injury. Caitlin's painful fall. Each video stitched together with captions reading, "This is what the league ignored." What started as outrage from loyal fans quickly grew into something uncontrollable. Major sports networks, the same ones that had often pushed the WNBA to the sidelines, were suddenly forced to lead with the story. Debate shows filled their schedules. Analysts dissected failures. Headlines shouted words like neglect, betrayal, and systemic collapse. This was no longer about missed calls or unlucky injuries. It was about a broken system. For the first time, the conversation shifted away from recovery timelines and return dates. Fans weren't just asking when Caitlin would be back or whether Sophie's career was over. They were asking a far more uncomfortable question. Why weren't these women protected in the first place? The focus moved away from box scores and highlight reels and locked onto something deeper. Human dignity, player safety, basic respect. And that shift terrified the league more than any injury report ever could. Because once fans lose faith in the system itself, the foundation begins to crack. Even rival players, women who had battled each other for years on the court, quietly stepped forward. A like here, a repost there. Small digital gestures that carried enormous meaning. Athletes who had every reason to stay silent chose solidarity instead. Shoulder to shoulder with Sophie, Lexie, and Caitlin. Meanwhile, the league's silence, once meant to control the situation, only grew louder with every new voice joining the movement. The ripple effects didn't stop there. Sponsors started to feel the pressure. Fans flooded brand pages with angry comments, demanding accountability. Why support a league that appeared careless with the very stars who filled arenas and drove viewership? What began as concern over injuries transformed into a fight over values. In just hours, 3 players turned personal pain into a public reckoning. The fire was spreading fast, and the league could no longer pretend it wasn't burning. So what happens next? Do these stars take the ultimate step and walk away? Or does this moment ignite the long-awaited revolution in women's basketball? What began as frustration had now exploded into something far bigger. A full-scale uprising. Players were no longer whispering behind closed locker room doors. They were standing together demanding change, stronger medical standards, real accountability, and most importantly, a voice at the table where decisions about their bodies and careers are made. History has shown this truth again and again. Real change in sports never comes from sudden conscience. Comes when players force action. And right now, that fuse has been lit. This isn't about a few unlucky injuries. It's about human beings refusing to be treated like replaceable assets. From this point forward, every interview, every press conference, every post will circle back to one undeniable fact. The silence has been broken. Fans aren't watching quietly anymore. They're demanding justice, tagging sponsors, asking the questions the league has avoided for years. Momentum is on the players' side. Public support is growing. And the WNBA's silence now feels smaller, weaker, and more dangerous than ever. The question remains, will the league listen, reform, and finally respect its stars? Or will it dig in and ignite the biggest player versus league battle women's basketball has ever seen? Caitlin Clark is no longer just a sharpshooter with unlimited range. She is a non-stop burst of acceleration, sudden stops, sharp pivots, and mid-air adjustments that defy balance and logic. Every sprint into a hard stop, every pull-up jumper, every no-look pass delivered while twisting her body places enormous stress on her frame. That style of play doesn't only require talent. It demands a body engineered to withstand constant impact. And when muscles in the hips, quads, and groin aren't fully prepared for that load, breakdown becomes inevitable. Recently, that breakdown has arrived. This is why Tim Grover, the legendary performance trainer who once rebuilt Michael Jordan from the ground up, is sounding the alarm. Grover argues that Clark's injuries aren't a case of bad luck. They are evidence of a flawed system. Reports suggest Clark has already begun seeking outside medical opinions. For a rookie to bypass her own team staff sends a powerful message. Trust has been lost. And according to Grover, that mistrust may be justified. He describes the league's medical approach as reactive instead of preventative. Something hurts? Ice it. A muscle tightens? Rest it. But where is the movement analysis? Where is the prehabilitation? Where is the individualized training designed to stop injuries before they happen? Those safeguards appear absent. Instead, Clark is patched up, cleared, and sent back into action. Her career treated like a trial-and-error experiment rather than a long-term investment. This issue goes far beyond Caitlin Clark. Grover's criticism exposes a deeper failure. WNBA players are elite athletes at the highest level. Their bodies are not just tools. They are their careers, their income, and their legacy. Yet too often, they're handled with outdated methods better suited for recreational athletes, not professionals pushing their limits nightly. History offers a warning. Early in his career, Michael Jordan battled groin strains and ankle issues that nearly derailed his rise. Muscular imbalances and joint stiffness threatened his future. The difference was intervention. Grover broke down Jordan's movements piece by piece, rebuilt his mechanics, and created durability that lasted over a decade. Clark doesn't have that system behind her. What she has instead is a ticking clock. And that clock is getting louder. Because what's happening to Caitlin Clark isn't just one player's struggle. It's a flashing red warning for the entire league. Will the WNBA modernize its medical approach and protect the stars who sustain it? Or will Clark's body become the most painful symbol of institutional neglect? The tension doesn't stop at the training room. It's bleeding into the locker room and spilling into the media. Cracks are forming everywhere. Teammates offering subtle jabs. Families voicing frustration. Rumors of jealousy and resentment creeping into headlines. The atmosphere is heavy, unstable, and toxic. For a rookie already under the brightest spotlight in women's basketball, this is the worst possible environment to heal. Recovery isn't only physical. It's mental, emotional. The greatest athletes rebound strongest when surrounded by trust and stability. Right now, Clark has neither. She's buried under expectations, crushed by pressure, and trapped beneath a spotlight hotter than any rookie before her. Here's the danger. If nothing changes, if Clark is rushed back, if training remains limited to brute strength without fixing mechanics, this cycle will escalate. Minor groin pain becomes hip damage. Quad strains turn chronic. One issue triggers another. Will Indiana protect its brightest star? Or will the league stand by and watch her burn out before her career truly begins? The most alarming detail is the compensation cycle. Injuries don't just repeat. They shift. Pain begins on one side, then the other side collapses from overuse. That's textbook compensation. Tim Grover has seen it before. It nearly ended Jordan's career early. The solution wasn't quick fixes. It was total reconstruction. Every landing, every pivot, every joint in the kinetic chain evaluated and corrected. The result was longevity. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull need that same level of intervention now. This isn't about saving a season. It's about protecting legacies. They have the skill, vision, and fire to become generational players. But greatness means nothing if their bodies can't sustain it. Will the league finally break this cycle? Or will history repeat itself in devastating fashion? Picture this. You give everything to the game you love. Your sweat, your blood, your heart. You help revive a league, fill arenas once empty, and become the reason millions tune in. And then, when your body finally gives out, when you're at your most vulnerable, the league you carry turns its back on you. That isn't oversight. That's betrayal. And that's exactly what these women experienced. Behind closed doors, frustration built like pressure inside a sealed chamber. And then suddenly it exploded. Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, and Caitlin Clark stepped forward. Not as competitors, not as names on separate rosters, but as one united voice. Their statement wasn't polished or softened. It was blunt, emotional, and impossible to ignore. They called the league's silence what it truly was: abandonment. And they made one thing clear: they would not be quiet anymore. Fans described the moment as an earthquake in women's sports. The internet erupted instantly. Hashtags surged to the top of trending charts. Justice for the WNBA, stand with Caitlin, protect our players' dominated timelines. Analysts scrambled to respond. Stephen A. Smith stated plainly, if the WNBA wants respect, it has to start by respecting its stars. Former players echoed the sentiment. Even rivals, often hesitant to speak publicly, showed support through reposts, likes, and subtle messages of solidarity. The heartbreak is undeniable. Caitlin Clark, whose rookie season was meant to inspire a generation, now carries the weight of a system that failed her. Sophie Cunningham, long admired for her toughness, faces uncertainty about her future. Lexie Hull's fighting spirit remains, but her trust in the league has been shattered. This was never just about injuries or surgeries. It was about dignity, about human beings demanding the respect they earned. So where does this leave the WNBA? Will these players walk away, plunging the league into chaos? Or will they force the biggest transformation women's basketball has ever seen? One thing is certain: silence is no longer an option. Fans are watching, players are united, and the league stands at a crossroads. Justice for Caitlin, justice for Sophie, justice for Lexie. These aren't just slogans, they're a rallying cry. And now the world is listening.